is up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island Podcast, the only NFL podcast from get your takes from washed-up Division III cornerback and his friends. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, joined again by my great friends and co-hosts, Ty and STERB. In today's episode, we're going to be doing our official mock draft for the 2026 NFL Draft. You guys are going to be getting this on draft day, so make sure to tune in this morning to this before you watch the draft tonight. And then tonight, we will be doing a live stream breaking down night one, and then we'll be also be doing a live stream on night two for the NFL Draft as well. Before we get into our mock draft, as you guys can see, we didn't do either position groups, the safeties or corners, this past couple weeks. We were busy with scheduling issues, so we weren't able to get lists out for you guys in episodes for those position groups. But that being said, quickly to give our consensus lists for those two groups before the mock draft. At number one for cornerbacks, we had Mansour Delane, followed by Jermon McCoy. 3 was Avion Terrell. 4 was D'Angelo Pons. 5, Chris Johnson. 6, Colton Hood. 7, Traden Stukes. And 8, Keontae Scott. And then for safeties at number 1, we had Caleb Downs. 2, Dylan Danneman. 3, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. 4, AJ Hulsey. And 5, Zakee Wheatley. I think the cornerbacks list is where you're seeing a lot of people kind of differentiate, whereas the safety list is sort of a little bit more consensus nationwide, kind of no matter where you're looking, those are pretty consensus. But getting right into this mock draft here, number 1 on the clock, Ty, who do you have the Las Vegas Raiders taking? Do you have a surprise pick for us?
No, I mean, everyone in the world knows who the pick's going to be. It's going to be Fernando Mendoza. You know, we're talking about what would the Raiders need to move off him, because he's not considered this generational quarterback, right? And you know, we talked about what would the Jets need to be offered if they were so desperate for a quarterback. They have a haul that they could list, 216, probably their second round pick this year and their first next year. I just don't think that anyone's blown away by the quarterback class this year, and anyone who is quarterback needy just is punting to 2027 at this point, except for the Raiders, who obviously had the first overall pick. So someone will take a chance on Ty Simpson, but I just don't think, the Raiders are going to get what they would need to move off pick 1.
Yeah, I think Fernando Mendoza is the easy pick here. Moving on to number 2, we move to the Jets. And this is an interesting pick here because there's 2 really big player names that are being talked about. It's Arvell Reese or David Bailey. And I think it's McShay has been going, I forgot who it's been that's been going flip-flop in the picks.
Yeah, it's McShay.
Yeah, McShay, he said,
every day.
Yeah, it's Reese. No, now it's Bailey. And I will say he's getting these from sources, right? So like sources are kind of going back and forth on him. You got to feel for the guy trying to, being like, yeah, I'm getting this, but now I know it's this. And then the next day, like a team would be like, oh yeah, actually it'll be this. So I don't know if it's the Jets, just making fun of him, like trying to mess with these different beat reporters or nationwide reporters, but a lot of smoke coming out of the New York Jets camp. With that being said, I think the number 2 pick should be Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain. If I'm going for an edge here, I'm picking Ruben Bain because that's my number 1 edge in this class. But I do think that the Jets will go Arvell Reese. I think he fits in their scheme a lot with obviously Aaron Glenn over there. I think he can scheme up some things for him. And I think he's a better player than all around than David Bailey. But that's just my opinion. What are your guys' thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I'm interested, to just by the pick itself, because I think David Bailey seems to be the more trending pick here at 2 with, Schrags coming out and saying today, like he's been hard and fast on David Bailey all the way through. It was interesting. They canceled that meeting with him and then said, we know enough about it. Is that just them saying, yeah, we're going to take David Bailey? Like we don't need to talk with him any more than we already have. Yeah, I mean, I think it's between Reese and Bailey, and I would lean Bailey as the pick. But, yeah, I mean, it's a real toss-up on what do the Jets want? Do they want the guy with the higher upside, or do they want the immediate production from David Bailey?
Stir, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's obviously between those 2. I think if I'm the Jets, or I think predictively, I would still go Reese here just because it has been flip-flopping a lot. And I do think consensus is that Reese is a better player and perhaps a higher upside player. Like if Aaron Glenn wants more of a sure thing, I don't think he can play for that when he may not be coaching the Jets next year. I think you go with the higher upside player. I think you go with the better player here. So if it's between those 2, I would kind of For me personally, I would definitely draft Arvell Reese here over David Bailey, but consensus also has Arvell above David Bailey. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, that one is really the start of it, because then number 3 here, Sturb, depending on who's taking at 2, you could see a trade up or things like that. But what are your thoughts on this number 3 pick for the Cardinals?
Yeah, this is an interesting trade up spot. If someone is to trade up for this, I would, if I'm one of those teams that wants to trade up, I would trade up for Jeremiyah Love if I'm a more complete team over, David Bailey. David Bailey, I like him, but probably is more like a mid to late first. I'm not like on the David Bailey hype train that a lot of people are, and I think we all are on this panel. We don't see him as like a top 5 pick or anything. So we could maybe see like some of the more complete teams in the top 15 try and trade up for Jeremiyah Love here. I don't see that happening. I don't think we're doing a whole ton of draft scenarios today. If it's between like these options, I'd probably go Ruben Bain. But with the consensus kind of being Francis Mauigoa, I think I'm okay with that. I would stamp that pick because you obviously have the right tackle need in Arizona here. Elijah Wilkinson, and then if he's not, a tackle, then he can obviously kick in the guard and still contribute to this team. So I think like you're getting a young player here, you're getting a day one starter. There's not like a whole lot of development that needs to be done with him, I would say, especially if he's going to, be swing tackle, guard tackle. One thing to be concerned about is the injury history that just seems to be recently coming out about Francis Mauigoa. I think it's like long-term back issues, like a herniated disc. Definitely interesting. Maybe that changes the pick here, but honestly, if it's this late in the process, I can't really do any different analysis on that. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to weigh that. So I'm going to go Francis Mauigoa here. I think it's like of the consensus, like 3 to 4 most popular picks here, I would say it's probably the one that I like the most. So I'm going to go Francis Mauigoa.
Yeah, I like it. I think maybe at some point, like it becomes a little bit high for him. Like 3 might be, like a slight reach, but at the same time,
if I could trade out here, I would. But I don't think a lot of teams are going to be willing to trade up for David Bailey or a running back at 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ty, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, with me kind of thinking the Jets are going to go with Bailey here, I think it's, do the Cardinals take Jeremiyah Love, or do they decide to trade out if a team is desperate enough for a player like Love or Arvell Reese? Like, I think that makes this pick so much more attractive if the Jets go with David Bailey. And I mean, I'm really buying this possible smoke that the Cardinals might take Love and trade back in and get Simpson. Kind of gives them some hope on the offensive side with McBride, and maybe if Marvin Harrison can figure it out. Michael Wilson had a good year last year. I could see, I know there's the need with tackle, but Arizona has never been one to draft smartly either. So I think, it's going to be a trade out or Jeremiyah Love in that situation.
Yeah, I think Jeremiyah Love would just be they have a couple of running backs already. They got Algier. They have James Conner coming back from injury, but I just think they have so many other needs that it would make sense. Like you said, Ty, like it could give them hope and things like that. And they're not the best drafting team, but I don't think necessarily would be fitting their biggest need at this point in time. Anyways, moving on to number 4, Ty. The Titans are on the clock. Do you think they're the team that could take Love?
Yeah, this puts the Titans in a really interesting position because, coming into this, I was thinking Love at 3, right? So I think if they have Love on the board, he's probably their top guy. You're considering Sonny Styles here. Their linebacker room is horrendous. Cody Barton is their only guy. Like, outside of that, it's just not a great group. They could consider edge. They made some moves this offseason to really shore up that defensive line, and they have some, a hole on the other side of Jermaine Johnson. I don't really think that there hasn't been a ton of buzz about them going with like a Bailey or a Bain. Maybe if Reese had fallen to them. But, with the way the board is, I think it's between Love and Styles. I think they're going to go with Love. Their running back room isn't great. Love is such a generational talent in terms of, he's an awesome talent, not he's a once in a generation just to make STERB happy.
We're not starting that.
No, we're not starting. But I think, I think they can address the running back need here and get a linebacker later on, because I think this linebacker class is
Pretty deep.
deeper and more talented than the running back class is. So I think they go Jeremiyah Love here if this is the way that the board falls.
I like it. I do like that pick for them. I think that you can get by without going running back there, and like you said, going Styles if they decide to do that. It would make sense also with Bob Sala as the head coach, right? Like going defense there and going to support Cam Ward obviously in the future rounds. But either way, I think they have. It's like a can't miss situation there. If you go Jeremiyah Love, you're boosting your offense. If you go Sonny Styles, you're
organizationally, right? Think about, Eddie George, Derrick Henry, right? They have always gone and paid running backs, drafted running backs pretty high. Derrick Henry was a second round pick. I think Eddie George was a first or second round pick, if I remember correctly. Like they have gone after running backs pretty consistently. And then Daboll had Saquon in New York, right? I think it is a match. I don't know. What do you think, Stir?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the pick. And another thing is that like Titans fans are all for it. Like I saw in a lot of, Twitter sections, Reddit threads, they're like, we're only ever decent if we have an elite running back. That may be oversimplification, but this team does like their running backs. And I think that Jeremiyah Love is obviously a pretty good one, even if I don't think he's quote unquote generational by the definition.
Yeah, I think if the board falls this way, the Giants are in an interesting spot. You could go receiver here, but I think they run the card in with either Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. I really like Sonny Styles to the Giants. I think that would be a really fun pick. And I think it would help their defense out a whole lot. You already have a pretty good defensive line. They need, replace Sexy Dexy now, but I think that comes with time. But you still have a great edge room. You have decent defensive backs, and if you add just Sonny Styles into that as well, I think their defense all around could cause mayhem. So give me Sonny Styles here as my pick at number 5 for the Giants. What are you guys' thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think there it's kind of between like Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. I think they would maybe like to get both, and I think another player that they're targeting, you may draft him at 10, but they've been linked to Jordan Tyson. This would be a little high for me for Tyson, definitely. I don't think it's too high for Downs. Like I think you have two good picks there between Styles and Downs, so they've been linked to them both.
Yeah, I think at 5 it's Styles or maybe even Tate here if they're interested in getting a receiver at 5. I don't think they're as hot on Tate from what it sounds like. I think at 10 they would be hopeful to get Downs, like STERB was saying, maybe Delane if he's there, or Jordan Tyson. So I think 5, just given the Caleb Downs, I think, is the better player, but just the desire for Sonny Styles and the rumors that Dallas might try to move up, the fact that the Commanders could use a linebacker. I think that just, overall value for a player like this would just drive him up the board, and, they'd be forced to take Styles at 5.
Moving on to number 6 here, Sturb, the Browns are an interesting spot. There's a few different spots they could go with this pick. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you're either starting a tackle run here or you're starting a receiver run, and they desperately need both of those positions. When I look at the tackles, like they kind of need starters across the whole O-line. Like they have very, very replacement level guys at pretty much each spot. Like Titus Howard and DeJuan Jones does not strike confidence in you at all. And it's not like you have a quarterback you need to protect, but ideally you want to protect your quarterback and find out what you have in future years. Or if you're, coming around and taking Simpson in the second round or something like that. In terms of like tackle, no one really stands out on the board to me. Like I think consensus would probably have them, choosing one of Fano or Freeling here. I don't love either of those picks. I think they're all right, but they don't scream like top 6 tackle to me. In terms of like wide receiver, I think you're in a typical class, like 6, I think is too high for Carnell Tate. But in this class, like you're not really left with a whole lot of other options. I think this could be like a trade up spot for, a Reuben Bain, for, Caleb Downs, David Bailey. Like there are still elite, especially defensive players on the board. So if a team wants to come up and take one of those, like if I'm the Browns, I'm desperately calling back because I do not want to start a run of either tackle or wide receiver. But if I was like forced into making this pick, I think I would just go with Carnell Tate, keep him in state here. Feels like a pretty high floor player. And something reliable on the offense that you can kind of, set your watch to. So I'm going Cardinal Tate here, but there's not really a pick that stands out to me that's like, oh, this is the pick to make it 6 for the Browns.
I think Cardinal Tate's a really good pick for them. I don't think you can like go wrong with it. I think he has a high floor, might be less of a ceiling than possibly Jordan Tyson as a receiver if he's healthy, right? But I think his floor is definitely there for the Browns to just be able to plug him in and immediately help out whoever the quarterback is for them this upcoming season. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the Tate pick. I think it's the pick that they should make. I'm just, with this draft and the way that the Browns are, I could see them taking tackle. You kind of throw out all the conventional value of where you take a certain position just because this draft isn't as talented as, years past. Caden Proctor is the guy that's like climbing up boards, and apparently that Cleveland loves. I know they have a second first round pick, but it's consistently been mocked and predicted that Proctor goes far before that 24th pick. I've seen the Lions trading up for him. I've seen Philly have interest, right? I think this could be the first shocking pick of the draft, and they could take Caden Proctor at 6, but they should take Cardinal Tate.
Yeah, and if they didn't take Caden Proctor, I think all of us were relatively low on him. And when we did our rankings,
yeah, I did not like Proctor at all.
And so it would definitely surprise us. I think if they did go tackle, I think Freeling would be a really solid pick for them there. If they didn't want to go Fano, right side versus left side.
It's just kind of played all over the field.
It's the Browns.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, the Browns, they're wild card.
The Browns taking Proctor, not gonna surprise me whatsoever. If I'm someone in control here, I'm not gonna let them do it. But I think it's definitely I could definitely see it happen on draft night.
Ty, what are your thoughts for the Commanders here with Cardinal Tate going the pick before them? That was a possible guy I could see them going, but
yeah, no, definitely. I think wide receiver is a need, with Love falling off the board and then Tate going. Maybe they could reach for Tyson here. This team feels like they're going to go after defense, though, and the best player on the board is Caleb Downs at this point. I think they just go out and plug a hole at safety. He's a guy that can play, kind of all over the field for them too. Give Dan Quinn a real chess piece. I think Caleb Downs could be that guy.
I love it. I think he's a top 3 prospect in this draft just because the safety's falling down boards. He has a little bit of injury worries too, but I think whoever gets him is getting a potential all-pro very quickly in his career. Moving on to the Saints pick here at number 8. This is a really interesting board for the Saints. Obviously, they were hoping that one of the tackles went. Maui Noah went. Jeremiyah Love's off the board for them. Sonny Styles is off the board for them. Caleb Downs is off the board for them. I really think the 3 guys they're looking at here would be Ruben Bain, Jordan Tyson, or Mansour Delane maybe as well. Actually, yeah, I here if I'm the Saints, I think all the smoke is pointing to it. I think they go receiver here. I would go Jordan Tyson here at number 8. I think if you pair him with Chris Olave, I think you're getting a very exciting offense that has a lot of potential to be, explosive. I think with Kellen Moore at the helm, he's going to want an offense that you can both run and pass out of. And I think that now that you have Achane, you're a little bit less worried about the running side of the ball. You need a receiver to pair with Olave. And if you can go get a guy like Jordan Tyson, that could be the best receiver in this draft. If they're not worried about his injuries, I think Jordan Tyson would be the pick here. But STERB, what are your thoughts on that as a fellow Saints fan?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I did the early chef's kiss because Ruben Bain is still on the board here, and that would be my easy pick. Yeah, I think we would both pick Ruben Bain over Jordan Tyson here. But we have been linked to Tyson as well as the Giants and a lot of other teams. It seems like he's pretty much a lock to go within the top 11 picks here. I would have still preferred Ruben Bain, so maybe Tyson goes 6 to the Browns or something like that, and then we pick between Tate and Bain, and I'm cool either way there. Tyson, it could be. I could see the downside of this hitting. It kind of sucks, but I could also see the upside of it hitting as well. It's kind of just like a mystery pick, whereas, I would rather upgrade our defense versus, take a position that's still valuable, but I don't know what the guy's necessarily going to be on that side of the ball. Could he get injured in his rookie year and then not end up helping shook as much as you thought. You could think that you're putting this position for your young quarterback to succeed, but also it would definitely help if he had some edge rush to play with on the other side as well. Yeah. It's not just all about developing the quarterback. Part of it, needs to translate to wins as well. So I think we are linked to this. I think it's probably the favorite, given how this board fell, that we would take Jordan Tyson compared to all the other players. But I still would prefer Ruben Bain, as I'm sure you would as well.
Definitely. I had Bain as my number one edge by like a pretty sizable margin over the other ones. And I think that's going to get hate. I know it probably will, but Ty, I think you had Bain as your number one edge too, right? If I'm not.
Yep.
Yeah, we all love Bain.
We were all pretty high on him, but Ty, what are your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't love Jordan Tyson. I don't love the injury concerns there. I would consider Bain or Mekhi Lemon here. I'm really, really high on Mekhi Lemon. I think he's the best receiver in this class, and he's going to end up falling somewhere in the teens at this rate. And if he falls into a really good situation, I mean, I've said this before. It just reminds me of JSN when I thought JSN was, by far and away one of the better players in his class, and he was the top receiver picked in his class, but he didn't go until like the teens. So could be a very, very similar situation. I see them as similar players as well. I'm not as high on Tyson. I would take Bain or Lemon in this situation.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting spot because I do think that the Saints, I think the value of taking Bain over a receiver here is pretty sizable. I think that the drop-off and edge is much more severe than the drop-off at the guys that you could get in the second round at receiver. So personally, I would go Bain, but I do think that they've been linked to Tyson a lot. So I think that's the pick where they would lean to right now. But moving on to number 9 here, the Chiefs are on the clock, didn't move up. We're not doing trades, obviously. So, Sturb, what are your thoughts on number 9 here?
Yeah, and if they knew that this is what the board looked like, I don't think they would have moved up. For me, it's between these top 3 players on the board, between Bain, Bailey, and Delane. They have been known to develop DBs in the past. Mm-hmm. They've been probably the best team at developing mid-round cornerbacks. But they also do take guys in the first round. Like I believe Trent McDuffie was a back end first round pick. I could see them going Delane here because they're starting corners. As much as I love Noah Williams, they're starting Noah Williams and then Christian Fulton across from him, which I don't love. But I think like maybe there's there's definitely a track record of developing mid-round cornerbacks, like I mentioned. You're picking the top 10 here. Like I think you have a very, very unique position to get like a hard blue chip player in Ruben Bain. This is like that kind of heavier handed, still can defend the run at a high level, can pass rush at a high level. This is the kind of guy that Spags gravitates towards. It's kind of just like a supercharged Karlaftis pretty much. You get like a super heavy-handed squatty player that can still defend the run and pass rush. I think I'm going Ruben Bain here. He's just best player on the board, number 3 prospect in the draft for me. But yeah, I'm going Ruben Bain.
I love it. I think it would be a great pick to pair with Chris Jones as well. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I love Ruben Bain, but I will be celebrating on draft night if they don't pick a corner and Mansour Delane is on the board, because that secondary is Swiss cheese. They lost 3 corners and a starting safety this offseason. I mean, they're not getting a corner of Mansour Delane's level at 29. And if they do, it's Jermon McCoy, who might never play in the NFL. So
Ty will be waddling in the live stream tomorrow if they draft
Yes. Listen, I love Ruben Bain. As we said, he's my top edge. That would scare me a little bit, but we got such good offensive line that if your secondary is trash, I'm not too worried.
Is Noah Williams erasure, and I won't stand for it.
Listen, he can go cover Cortland Sutton on the outside, and we'll just destroy them over the middle with Waddle.
That would make my dynasty team very happy. Anyways, moving on to number 10 here, Ty. The Giants moved Dexter Lawrence, obviously, for this number 10 pick from the Bengals. What are your thoughts here for the Giants?
Yeah, I think this is actually a great situation for the Giants because I was worried that STERB was going to take Mansour Delane with the Chiefs, and then they would have to maybe pivot to, a guy that they would have to take too early. Or I've suggested this to some of my Giants fans. They should take Ione here if the board doesn't fall their way. Take an elite guard. He's an all-pro. They need some help on the interior offensive line. But with Mansour Delane falling here, they have a need at corner. Cordell Flott left them this offseason. some of their other guys and Downs and Tyson didn't end up falling here, I would take Delane. I mean, I think, he's a top 10 caliber of player. And like I said, they need cornerbacks. And John Harbaugh teams have been known to draft cornerbacks in the first round. They took Marlon Humphrey. They took Wiggins. They've taken corners left and right. So I could see Delane going here.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think it's a solid pick. Well, like I said earlier, if they just bolster their defense with this first round, I think they're in an incredible situation where you just depend on your defense. You don't need Jackson Dart to play a superstar role this upcoming season. Even if he ends up doing that, if you have a superstar defense across the board, like you're fine either way. Sturb, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think their cornerback room has gotten a little overrated by a lot of people. But kind of hurts with Paulson and Debo there. But yeah, I do really like it. I think it's between, like Ty mentioned, I think it'd be between Ioane and Delane for me there. You take a more premium position, but I do have a higher grade on Ioane overall. Like, it's really a toss up there for me between the two. I don't think you can really go wrong.
At number 11 here for the Dolphins, this is an interesting pick because I do think that they could go David Bailey. Now, I know that's not like an underrated need of theirs as an edge. I do think that if the board falls like this, they could definitely go Mekhi Lemon. I think they desperately need a receiver, and he could be the best receiver in the draft. That's my pick for them in this situation. I think you have to get a receiver. I think Tyson would be their pick if he fell to them at number 11. But if both of those guys are gone and Mekhi Lemon's the only guy left, you got to go take the next guy in that tier because there is a drop off and they need a receiver one. So give me Mekhi Lemon to the Dolphins here. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Ty, yeah, I know you're a Mekhi Lemon guy.
Yeah, I love him, right? He's awesome. He's a great pick. I wish he would fall to a better team, honestly. It'd be great to see him in LA. Like, that'd be sick. Mm-hmm. But, they didn't pay a quarterback all that money to then have him throwing to Jalen Tolbert and, I don't even know.
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell. Yeah, like, they got to go out and get a receiver. They have a crap ton of picks and a crap ton of needs. So I think, yeah, they could take, arguably the guy who I think is the best player on the board there. I think he's a far better, first day prospect than a guy like David Bailey or some of these other guys. So, yeah, I think that would be an awesome fit.
Can I just say Tutu Atwell was making $10 million last year, and he did absolutely nothing. I think the receiver, the receiver
catches.
Yeah, now he's only making $1 million,
crazy,
justifiably. But
anyways, only $1 million.
Sorry. Anyways, moving on to number 12 here, Sturb. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. David Bailey fell to them at number 12. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, if Cowboys fans are watching this, they're probably like screaming at me to take David Bailey. I think that's a lot of overlap with one of my favorite prospects last year, Donovan Ezeraku. I may have had a higher grade on Ezeraku just as a prospect. I really don't know what I'd go here. It feels like a little early for Dylan Thieneman, just based off of like the positional value argument. But a lot of the defensive prospects that Dallas was hoping for here, I think, are off the board. They've been connected to CJ Allen. They've been connected to Keldrick Falk. I don't really know if I love either of those players at 12. I think that's pretty early for either of them here. But I think you need to go defense. I think I'm going to go and upgrade that safety room over, Jalen Thompson and Malik Hooker. I think I'm going to go Dylan Thieneman. I have him as like right around like a top 10 player in this draft. And that's going to get some hate, like taking that over David Bailey. But I honestly think just like David Bailey is pretty limited and more of an overlapping skill set with a guy you already have in the room in Donovan Ezeraku. So I think you probably target a heavier handed edge at 20. Don't snipe me there, but I think you probably go with that. Keldrick Falk, Zion Young, one of those guys you can maybe even snag in the second round. And that is a better complement to the room. So I'm going to go best defensive player on the board with Dylan Thieneman.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take, especially given David Bailey's, iffiness in the run game as an edge. I think that's a possible con they see in him. And Dylan Thieneman, I think, can do absolutely anything you want him to as a safety. So I'm not too upset with this pick, but yes, I think the people listening might have something to say. Anyways, Ty, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the need at safety. I just don't think the board quite fell the way that they wanted to. They might be a team that trades back from 12 as well, because I don't think they have a second-round pick. So I could see them trading back maybe a little bit, but yeah, it's just a weird spot for them on the board here.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the next pick, you got the Rams tie on the clock here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like the obvious pick would be a tackle, but all of the rumors, that I've been hearing around the Rams are they have interest in an edge or a receiver. I think the receiver would be, obviously Mekhi Lemon if he fell to them, or maybe a Jordan Tyson. With David Bailey falling here, get a guy that had 14 and a half sacks last season, put him across from Jared Verse with a strong interior defensive line. I know it doesn't seem like the natural fit, but the Rams are in a perfect situation to take best player available on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that with David Bailey, and they pair up him with Jared Verse to have a really good pass rush.
Yeah, it's almost like the foul clowns really messed that up by giving him that pick. But hey, I mean, the Rams, they'll take it.
I mean, listen, James Pierce Jr. is a great player. He just might be, in jail for playing GTA.
Exactly. Yeah.
Real life.
Moving on to number 14 here. The Ravens are an interesting team. I do think that they go interior O-line. I think if you go Ola Ioni.
Yeah.
I know his last name. I can pronounce the last name. It's too much. But no disrespect. I just don't want to butcher the name. But I'm going to go Ola here for the Ravens. I think it's a perfect pick. I think he's a shoe-in Pro Bowler when he gets into the NFL. He's just a sure thing as a guard, and I have no issues taking him there at number 14. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great pick. I think, him or Spencer Fanu, maybe they like Fanu as maybe a center, right? Because he's worked out a bit at center, and they lost Linderbaum. But I think the best interior offensive lineman, and honestly the best offensive lineman in this class, is Ione. So, yeah, it's a home run pick. He's an all-pro day one.
STERB, any disagreements?
I love it.
Yeah.
No, perfect fit there.
Moving on to 15 here. We got the Bucks. You are on the clock, STERB. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is another tough spot for me. If Jermon McCoy wasn't injured to all hell and not going to be playing his first 5 years in the NFL, he'd probably be the pick for me here. I think their cornerback room is really not very good, and it kind of played out that way last year. Mm-hmm. Consensus pick is Akeem Messidor. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I don't think he's a good enough player to warrant his age at a draft pick. Funny enough, the next ranked the next ranked edge on the PFF board is like 4 years younger than him and Keldrick Falk. I think that might be a good fit there. This is honestly like such a tough spot. I think they're between probably Sadiq and Messidor based off of the players on the board. Man, it is really tough there because I'm not like a super huge proponent of Sadiq going, especially in the top half of the first round. Oh man, I really don't know what to do here from the Bucks. You were hoping that
they did just pay Cade Otton.
I mean, Cade Otton's not the most intriguing tight end.
Yes, he's shown flashes here and there.
Yeah, he's fine. Man, you guys want to help me out a little here because this is like
I like Messidor. I was higher on him than both of you though.
Okay.
So that changes things because I do think that I think he's a fine edge. I really have no issues with the age. I mean,
yeah.
I also I had Falk above him though, but
I like Falk as a better pick, but do I think they go with him? No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I do think they're really going to go Messidor here. As a Saints fan, let's go Messidor. I love him. There we go.
Honestly, like I think that would give
trying
them
to make the best pick. That's not the process I should be going with as a Saints fan.
I think that I think Messidor will obviously give him a spark as like a pass rusher, but he's not as good as an edge setter as Falk. So there's pros and cons to that, but I think it's a solid pick nonetheless. Moving on to 16 here, Ty, what are your thoughts with the Jets' second pick?
Yeah, I mean, this could be Ty Simpson. It very well could be. I doubt that they take Simpson here, though. Honestly, I think they would probably move up in the first round off their second round pick so they can get that 5th-year option and, get 3 guys on a 5th-year option. The Jets have not been, shy to have 3 first-round picks. They did it with, I think it was Sauce, Jermaine Johnson, and Garrett Wilson all in 1 year. So I think this could be quarterback, but I think we're going to lean more of the receiver room here. They have Garrett Wilson. They have A.D. Mitchell. They just cut John Mechie, who had a decent year for them last year later on in the season. I think they get another slot guy like Mechie. Go with Omar Cooper Jr. here. I think he's a great fit for, if they get Ty Simpson or if they draft a quarterback next year and they have Geno Smith, he's going to be just a great safety blanket out of the slot, kind of that Deebo Samuel type of player like I've compared him to in the past. I think wide receiver would be a great pick here at 16.
Yeah, I don't mind that pick at all. I think I would not be surprised if they ended up going Denzel Boston. I know there's a few teams out there that I've seen have him as their receiver 2 in the draft, which
is they doing crack?
I think there's a lot of Denzel Boston haters out there. I'm not one of them. I think he's
not bad.
Solid. I think he's a solid receiver. I have him my number 5. I have him right above Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah,
I
don't mind this pick. I don't think it's wild.
I don't mind this pick at all, Ty. I really don't. I think that they're linked to him, and I definitely see that happening. But I think Denzel Boston. Well, what are your thoughts on, Garrett Wilson obviously is their receiver 1. Do you think, I mean, you said it yourself, like a slot guy, you think that's kind of, does that fit into, Geno Smith's game more than like a Denzel Boston type or other guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's played with both. Like Denzel Boston's a bigger body receiver. He played with DK Metcalf. Yeah. But I think Tyler Lockett, that's shifty slot kind of receiver, he was the guy who had a ton more success in Seattle. Yeah. So I could see Omar, not the same player, but just similar type of, where you play on the field.
I think it would be a slam dunk pick either way for them. I think you need to go receiver there. And I think either way, they're happy with that pick.
And Geno, he had the most success last year with Trey Tucker, another shorter slot guy.
He did. That is a good good callback. I honestly forgot about Tucker having that season last year. So good shout out. 17 here. I think the Lions are very happy with how the board fell. Obviously, there wasn't a big tackle run. I've seen a lot of smoke that there is going to be a tackle run at the end of 10, or it's like 10 through like 13, 10 through 14, which would be interesting. And that would obviously screw this pick over for the Lions. But with the way the board fell, they have the pick of the litter here. I mean, they could go Caden Proctor. They've been linked to him because he, like you said, Ty, he's been rising up boards very, very quickly. He's a bigger guy. And I know the Lions like bigger players. I don't have him above anyone here but Blake Miller on my board. So if I'm the Lions, I'm going Spencer Fano or Monroe Freeling. But that being said, I do think that Caden Proctor will be their pick here if the board falls like this because they've been linked to him. There's a lot of smoke that he's rising up boards. So that's why I'm going to take it. But I don't think he's better than Fano or Freeling. And so that wouldn't be my personal pick, but I do think that the Lions would love that pick there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, they need a left tackle with cutting Taylor Decker. And, the more natural left tackles are going to be Proctor and Freeling. Fanu has played some left tackle, but Lomu was more that true left tackle the past couple of years. Listen, I like Freeling much better as a player, but like you said, the smoke and the way that, he's kind of rising up boards right now, I think it's going to be Proctor.
Yeah, Proctor wouldn't even make like the top 4 tackles on the board for me. Like I would take Fano, Freeling, Blake Miller, and Giannis Orr over him pretty comfortably. So I would kind of hate this, but it's kind of strange that, a team picking in, the mid-teens is so linked to one player. We don't see that very often. So I'm very curious if it's just like a smoke screen or to
I just thought about this too. It's interesting they're so tied to a left tackle because there was the Penei Sewell moving to left tackle rumors as well.
That's possible. But that also could just be like, okay, we're putting this out as rumors on purpose so that teams don't get a leverage
smoke season, baby.
That's why you gotta love the draft. That's why you gotta love the draft. There's so much bullshit being spewed by teams just to pick up whispers by other teams, and it's a lot of fun. I think we'll see how.
And they could play left or right. Like I think if you're them, you probably just take the best tackle available, which is not Proctor,
and see how it works.
So. Yeah,
I agree. Moving on to number 18 here, Ty, a rival picking right after them, the Vikings. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that I like Dylan Finneman to go to. I think they have a need at safety. Too early for running back, and I'm surprised they even have running back as a need because they brought back Aaron Jones and have Jordan Mason on the roster. I think it would really just muck things up. They could go Fanu here, move him to center. This team just feels like a Jermod McCoy team to me. It feels like a spot where they could take a chance with him, play him with Brian Flores. It's kind of between him and a safety for me. I don't really think that they're an Emmanuel McNeil Warren team. I'm going to go with Jermod McCoy here.
I like it. I think whatever team he falls to, I think will be happy if they know that he's healthy, right? Like, I think if he goes into this draft, he's not getting picked in the first round if there's a team that doesn't think he's healthy. But if like everyone knows he's healthy, he's going to go in the first round, and whatever team picks him is anticipating that he's going to play this year. So I think this would be a fine pick for the Vikings if he's there at 18. I'd be very happy if I was them. And they already have a good defense that would make them great, if like even better if he falls to them there.
Yeah, him and Byron Murphy would be great together.
Yeah. I will say I think this was supposed to be my pick, but I would have done the exact same thing. So yeah, echo everything. Echo everything.
By the way, Sterb, I don't know if you recognize. I just wanted to say this real quick. I gave you the Cardinals because of all the gripes earlier. Sterber's our Cardinal analyst on the team. So
I have covered the Cardinals every single time since I decided I would ban them last year. Not a single other person on the panel has covered the Cardinals.
Intentional.
Yeah. So I just, if any of the listeners didn't pick that up, I just wanted to, bring it to life.
Well, it's a new year. It's a new year.
It's a new year.
If I'm taking over their drafting, then maybe I can get on board.
Yeah, maybe you can turn it around.
Yeah, but pretty much just echo everything that Ty said about Jermod McCoy. Maybe I would have gone defensive line here because they are like super, super thin at defensive line. Like honestly, like scary thin. But I think defensive line is pretty deep in the second and third round. So I would just wait.
Yeah. And here's the one thing I'll say why I didn't go with D-line. Brian Flores does a really great job of disguising and sending blitzes. Like they don't really need a deep or like talented per se on paper defensive line because they do so many exotic things. I think it matters way more about the guys that you have in the back end when you're doing exotic things.
And I think McCoy is very opportunistic too. So if a quarterback is, making a throw that's a little bit errant or things like that, he gets his head around really well, and he can, quarterback's going to be putting pressure a lot, like you just said, Ty. And so he's going to be having a lot of opportunities for picks. Moving on to number 19, Sterb, another divisional rival here on the board for you. What are your thoughts?
I believe this is Ty's pick.
If
I'm not mistaken.
STERB was the last.
Are you sure?
On my board
Omar. I took Omar. You took Caden. STERB would have taken Jamar.
Yes.
This would be me again.
You were right. Yes. I had it on my board wrong.
And I will go with Kenyon Sadiq here. I think that they have a need at tight end. Jatavian Sanders is not a tight end one in this league. There's been a little bit of smoke about that, maybe taking another receiver. I just think they need a weapon for Bryce Young to continue to help him out. We saw how much Ted McMillan was able to help him out last year. I think they have a decent wide receiver room outside of him. Like Coker, if he can stay healthy, is a guy who's had some success. Their tight end room is just bad. And Sadiq, brings just a different level of athleticism and just talent to that room entirely. So I like Kenyon Sadiq here.
Moving on to the Cowboys, or Sterb, what do you have? Like, I think we all like Sadiq. I was really big on Sadiq, so I would hate that pick if he went to the Panthers. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's an okay pick. You look at the other pass catchers on the board, and obviously, like I would prefer a couple other guys. I'm not like super, super high on Sadiq in terms of like just first round tight ends that you can think about in previous years. I think he ranks, pretty firmly below all of them. Maybe Dalton Kincaid, but I don't love it, but I understand where, the Panthers are coming from, like just adding another pass catcher, perhaps someone you can, feed the ball to a little more easily than the options that you have in the room. Like Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker, not necessarily known as like screen underneath yak guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it gives you a different option, but it's okay. It's I'm not in love with it.
I think
You sound like Jenks with Loveland.
Oh no, I love Loveland. Jenks,
yeah, no,
Jenks
I think
despises Loveland. He thinks he was UDFA.
I like
This is
Sadiq as a
your Loveland,
prospect. I would have had Sadiq graded above Loveland just because of athleticism. I think that provides a lot of
way.
support.
We can't be doing this right now. We can't.
Are
I know.
you
I won't get into
serious?
this. I won't get into this.
This
but
could be a whole episode. We got to drop a
yes.
episode.
I agree. We won't
You
get
can't
into
just
it.
drop a bomb like that.
I don't think it's. I mean, I was very, very anti Loveland first round.
That is an insane
So,
take.
I
Okay,
think,
wait. Are you saying with what you know about Loveland now, or are you saying just purely as prospects?
as prospects,
Or both?
yeah, as prospects. Like obviously,
Knowing what
if
you
I
know
knew
now about
if I
Loveland,
knew Loveland was gonna perfectly, at the end of season, first half of the season, I would have stuck with my opinion because it looked so right. Second half of the season, obviously,
21-year-old tight end.
It flip flopped. Kenyon Sadiq is what, 20? Is he not
He's
this
the
like
same
young?
age, but he's been way less productive.
I think
His traits
his
are much
athleticism.
worse.
I don't think that's. I'm not getting into it. We're not gonna
Moving
get
on
into
to
it.
pick 20.
Yes, pick 20. We'll break this down. We can talk about this during the live stream. Anyways, pick 20. Here for the Cowboys, I'm going defense again. It just depends on where they want to go. I think they would either go CJ Allen or Falk. And I think either of those picks I'm happy with. I would go Falk over CJ Allen. I don't think CJ Allen's, I think he's a good linebacker. We've talked about this in our linebacker episode, but I think he's a good linebacker, but I don't think he's as well-rounded as I would want him to be if I'm picking him at 20 there if I'm the Cowboys. I don't think he's, the most athletic, where if I'm playing teams that can pass the ball well, yes, he will be able to go and blow up some runs. But going backwards in the pass game, we saw it as pro day. He doesn't seem as shifty, as athletic in that fashion. And I think that's a little bit of a con in his game. So I'm not taking him at 20 here if I'm the Cowboys. I would take Falk at 20 though. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty low on CJ as well. They just feel like a CJ Allen team, though, is the problem here, right? Like if they don't get a Sonny Styles earlier on, I don't know. I like Keldrick Falk, right? Is better as a prospect, but Dallas and the way that it just feels to me, it feels like a CJ Allen team. But this is a good pick overall.
Yeah, I'm kind of like 50-50 on what I think would happen if the board fell exactly like this. I do probably prefer Keldrick Falk in terms of, just pure grade and positional value. But like Ty said, like CJ Allen has been linked to the Cowboys for a reason. I think they feel like a CJ Allen team.
And
quarterback definitely a spot here too.
Yeah, and they could also trade back if they want to go two defensive prospects and they don't like a guy here. They could trade back, get a second round pick in a later first or 2 seconds, things like that. Like I could see them doing that if they didn't like the board falling to this. Anyways, Sturb, I gave Ty the last 2 picks prior to this. I'll give you 2 in a row. So I'll give you the Steelers and the Chargers here to make up for it.
Sure.
If it's too much
going on with this order here,
I'll do it.
I'm
equalizing it. So
starting off, what I was saying is that Ty and I would have agreed on Gerard McCoy regardless of who the pick went to.
Okay, then never mind. Your 22nd pick has been revoked. It's going back to Ty.
It's been traded to me.
On the clock at 21, we got Sturb.
With the Chargers, though, Ty's gonna take Ty Simpson to the Chargers. We know how he feels about them.
No, I'll give him a good.
I don't know, man.
Trust.
Garrett Nussmeier. Here it just seems pretty easy, like top tackle on the board. I would have some concerns if I'm sticking at pure tackle. Like obviously, if you're the Steelers, you want to replace Broderick Jones, especially if you're bringing Aaron Rodgers back, because one hit and he might be done with. So it's between Monroe Freeling and Blake Miller for me. Blake Miller obviously would have to switch positions, but I do think he's the better prospect in a vacuum. Monroe Freeling, bit more of a project, but he's played left tackle in the SEC before, or coming into this draft. I do think I'm going to lean with my pre-draft evaluation, just go Blake Miller here. I think he's going to be able to make the transition to left tackle, no problem. super, super reliable, even on like a dumpster fire Clemson team. I don't know how they weren't good this year with how many good players that they have individually. Makes no sense, but I'm going to go Blake Miller here. I think he was my tackle 2 or 3. I can't find him here, but yeah, I think he's my tackle 2. Yeah, tackle 2. So I'm gonna go with Blake Miller here.
I don't mind it. I have him much lower on my board, but I wouldn't mind it at all. He's going to be a first rounder. I see it happening, so I don't mind this take here at all. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, Simpson's a possibility here, but offensive line makes a lot of sense. I think, it's just pick your flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree as well. But moving on to the next pick, obviously a divisional rival for you as a fan, the Chargers here at 22. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, wide receiver, it says that's their number one need with, losing Keenan Allen. I actually like Trey Harris a lot, a guy who they took in the second round last year. He showed some promise, especially later in the season. I don't think that they'll necessarily need a wide receiver. Maybe they take one a little bit later. Guard, you could bump Spencer Fanu into guard. Mm-hmm. But they didn't really seem too pressed to go after offensive linemen in free agency. They added Biadaz at center and Cole Strange at right guard. They got Penning at left guard right now. I don't really think that they're too pressed on the offensive line, even though I don't think that interior, at least the guards, I think the guards are terrible right there.
Yeah.
I think that they're actually going to go with a defensive lineman. Their defensive line is not, just looking at the depth chart, not great. I could see a couple different things here. I don't think edge either. I think it's going to be pure defensive line. Ooh. They have Tuli Tulopu and Khalil Mack back. Caleb Banks would have been a great pick, but I think with all the injury stuff, he might drop. So for me here, I think I'm going to go with Peter Woods. Peter Woods, Lee Hunter is my number one defensive tackle, followed by Caleb Banks, followed by Caden McDonald, followed by Peter Woods with Christian Miller right close behind him. This just feels like, what the Chargers' flavor of defensive line is. It would be a Peter Woods, getting a guy who's it can move around a ton too. He played a little bit of edge for them, for Clemson last year. So a little bit of a Clemson run here. The Chargers get Peter Woods. I think that they should go offensive line. I think that Spencer Fano would be a great guard for them, but I see them going with defensive line.
I don't mind that at all. I think Peter Woods is solid. I had him as my number 2 defensive lineman, so I don't mind it. STERB, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Think very talented, high ceiling player. They do need some help on the D-line, so yeah, I definitely see it.
Moving on to 23 here for the Eagles. I think if the board falls like this, I could definitely see them going Monroe Freeling here at their pick. They need a new tackle. They could go Fano as well. Either way, I think they're happy. I have Fano as a much higher graded player on my list.
You don't think they try to replace A.J. Brown here?
I think they could go receiver too, but I think it's a little hot. I think it's a little high. I'm trying to think. What's their second round number? Eagles picks.
I think it's got to be 46, something like that, 48.
Let's see. I'm looking. Their second rounder is. That was no help. I went to their website and it just gave me nothing.
It should be 45 if they have their own second.
It's 54. 54. I think you go receiver at 54, maybe.
That's interesting.
Okay, if you're replacing a receiver here, do you go Denzel Boston or you go KC?
I think they would go with Denzel Boston.
They would have to, right? I think that's the same archetype.
Yeah.
But the tackle board falling like this, I think if you could go either of these two, I think the value,
even with Lane back,
is there. Yeah, because you got to replace. He's going to be gone next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys think that
I do think they go O-line here?
Okay.
Personally. Because it's not like you have like an empty wide receiver room like, the Browns or the Dolphins do. Like you already have Devontae Smith there. And I think you could get away with him for a year being your one.
Whoa, the Browns have Jerry Jeudy.
They do have Jerry Jeudy. Don't worry about Jerry Jeudy. He gonna make some.
So this
plays.
guy gets to defend.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Jerry Jeudy. I can't defend Colston Loveland.
No, I'm trolling. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go Fano because I like the pick more than Freeling. I think he's a better prospect. That being said, whether he is on the left or right, wherever the Eagles need him, I think he will be able to play either side. And if they need
guard, center,
if they need interior O-line help during the season, if they want to, replace one of their linemen already, like I think that is a great pick for them, and I think they'd turn that in an instant. But
outside of Lane, right? Landon Dickerson considered retiring. They moved Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson from center to guard, and then Jurgens back to center. Right? They've been known to move guys around a ton, and they've got two guys that are pretty injury prone with right now at their careers with Dickerson and Lane, and both getting older and considering retirement. So I think it's a good pick and just a better fit for the team.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they'd probably go, they lean more developmental. So like Iannachor might be, more the apple of their eye. But if I was them, I'd go Fano here for sure.
Moving on to the Browns' next pick here. STERB, you are on the clock. What are your thoughts?
Yep, I'm relegated to Browns and Cardinals coverage from now on.
That's good stuff.
But here, like I do think it kind of worked out perfectly. Like you still get, a first round in this class caliber tackle. Like I think it's between Monroe Freeling and the guy I just mentioned, Max Iannachor. I don't have a lot of faith that the Browns can really develop anyone. And both of these guys are a little more developmental. I think I would go the guy who, already played left tackle and generally considered the better player. I'm going to go Monroe Freeling to replace DeJuan Jones here. DeJuan Jones, terrible player. So going Monroe Freeling.
And my thoughts here are that I think they could possibly go Freeling in the first, or like with their first pick. I've seen rumors of that.
Yep.
So like if he falls to you here, like you're happy. You get Carnell Tate.
You like that better than, taking, well, it depends on if this tackle run really does happen at the end of the teens. Like if the tackle run happens and then Iannachor and Monroe Freeling are off the board, then you really don't feel good about taking, Carnell Tate first. But if it plays out like this, like if you were already considering, Monroe Freeling at 6 and you take Carnell Tate and then you get Monroe Freeling anyways at 24, I think most people would have, Carnell Tate above Denzel Boston. So kind of a 1-for-1 trade in that scenario. But you play a little bit of a gamble with Monroe Freeling. I think we'll go higher than this, definitely on draft night. But played out well for this one.
Yeah, I was pretty high on Monroe too. But I will say this about Cleveland. They've done a good job developing offensive linemen in the past. Joe Thomas, Alex Mack, Joe Matonio. They know a thing about too. And this front office has definitely done a better job of drafting. I mean, you look at last year's draft, Jenks and I talked about it, or I think it was actually STERB and I talked about it. This was probably the best draft class, outside of their quarterbacks. I mean, they hit home runs on pretty much every pick. So
I don't mind drafting the quarterbacks either, especially with where they were taken.
Right. Yeah. 3rd and 5th round picks. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Freeling a lot as a prospect. I think I had him as my number 1 left tackle, and I think he was 3rd on my tackles list. So
yeah,
they need tackle help. This would be a great fall.
Moving on to 25 here, Ty. The Bears are on the clock. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they're a team that is super duper talented, pretty much across the board. Center's a need for them with the guy, I forget the guy's name that they had last year, but he just retired. They brought in Garrett Bradbury, though. D-line, I mean, they're always looking for more D-line help. I think safety is the biggest need right now. They got Kobe Bryant to play free safety, strong safety, Cam Lewis. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know who that guy is. So we're going to go with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here. I think he'd be a great fit for the Bears, right next to Kobe Bryant. Solidify that defense and get your guys' boy, your old DC, some help over there.
Yeah, I think this is like kind of like a shoe-in pick right now for them. Like that he's falling to them a lot in the mocks across the board, and I think it would be a perfect match for both sides. So I love that pick. Sir, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it a lot as well. I've been seeing this one a lot. I've been seeing a lot of Caden McDonald there as well. I don't think you could really go wrong between those two players. McNeil Warren, I do think has the higher ceiling, just given, his athletic traits and, ability to be used kind of as a chess piece in that Dennis Allen defense. So I do like it a lot.
Next on the board, we got the Bills here. I'm going to need you guys' help with this one. I think they could go any of these positions on the defensive side of the ball.
You know what I'm going to say.
I promise.
KC.
CJ?
This is KC. 150 times out of 100.
Really? They just got DJ?
Yes.
Interesting, because they did just have DJ Moore. They haven't.
I don't think DJ Moore stops you from taking KC.
I feel like they have so many receivers that have that similar mold.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Khalil Shakir is like their slot. Like that's their guy.
Yeah, but he's not a vertical separator. KC can run any route on the tree.
Of course, he's a great receiver, but look at their guard situation, especially at left guard.
Guard you can get later.
They don't have a second round pick.
Yeah, I don't think receiver
guard or defensive line. Their defensive line is
bad as well.
Not great.
You go Caden.
There's not like a
a
guy who like stands out to me as much as KC does at those other positions.
If I'm the Bills here, I think you have to trade back. And if the board like
I didn't know they have a second. Yeah, I do think they don't have a second.
I think if this is the Bills pick, you have to trade back because of what their needs are, right? You could take any defensive position and kind of be happy. And I think there's still a good amount of defensive talent here that if you're trading back to, maybe the late 30s, early 40s, and you're getting another second or a third or something like that, you can get another defensive lineman there and be happy with your pick. But if you're staying here, I would go Caden McDonald if I'm the Bills here. I think he's a solid interior defensive lineman. There's talks that he could go as high as the early 20s. And I think here at 26, it's a good fit for him. They need defensive interior help. So give me Caden
He's
McDonald.
A true nose too, and they don't really have a true nose right now. Like they have Deion Walker, but I don't really see him as a true nose, nor do I see him as a great player. Like I think this would be a great spot for Caden McDonald.
Jenks, you're not going to defend your boy there?
What? Who?
Deion Walker.
Hey, I've moved past Walker.
I love the fit for the Bills here. Like, been one of the worst. Well, of playoff teams, they've been easily the worst rushing defense in the league. And Caden McDonald, probably a top 5 run defender, independent of position in this class. Yeah. So I love it.
Moving on to 26 or 27 here. Sorry, STERB, you are on the clock. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I feel like they could go kind of any number of things. I feel like a tackle was, kind of the chalk pick before Trent Williams got re-signed. Could they still do that? I think maybe they could. Kyle Shanahan also does love his first-round wide receivers, so KC is kind of catching my eye here. I do think they also need help in the edge room.
Yeah.
Between these guys, like you already got Michael Williams last year, and the players that I like most on the board, like Zion Young, probably profile pretty similarly to him. Like I wouldn't take Cassius Howell or R. Mason Thomas here as more like what I think of as DPR kind of guys. It's going to be hard for me to not draft KC here, just because I feel like.
Wow.
To me, he is the best player on the board. Like I think you have a decent wide receiver room, but you can nitpick each and every one of their guys with either injuries or being just old. Mike Evans, old. Ricky Pearsall, injuries. Christian Kirk, injuries and old. George Kittle, injuries and old. Like that substation over there, I think it's definitely real.
They did the research.
They did the research.
It's not. It's not.
Independent. Yeah, I'm living like 30 miles away from there, and I am moving soon. So I'll let you guys know if I feel any better once I move away. But I mean, do you guys have any other players that like stand out to you here? Because if not, I'm just going to take KC.
No, I mean it's another spot move back. I mean these last like 6 picks on this board.
Yeah,
they're a shot in the dark. You're throwing a dart at the board.
So. Yeah, I mean, this is a spot where you start talking about, do you take a guard or a tackle too early per se, right? Like higher than their value. We've seen
Take
Chase
Bregman.
Bisontis going in the first round. They could be they could have been a Caleb Lomu team before they re-signed Trent Williams, right? Like they could shore up the offensive line. I mean, they could go anywhere.
Could I say that I think Keelan Rutledge has a very good shot at being picked in the first round?
Yeah, I think like
There's a lot of
Rutledge or Bisontis would actually be pretty good fits here, and like maybe could happen on draft night. Personally, for me, like I'm not gonna greenlight that over my boy, but I definitely see the argument.
All right, so we're going KC here.
We're going KC here.
Okay, interesting. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I think it would make their receiver room a lot more fun. Their offense would be pretty solid going to the next season, but they do need that O-line. They need O-line help. Maybe they go that in the second, third rounds and shore it up. But anyways, moving on here to the next pick. Ty, you're on the clock with the Texans at 28.
Yeah, a team that needs to continue to build up that offensive line that they've made some work on this year. They could have been a candidate for Caden McDonald. I've seen him mocked them a ton. I'm going to go with Chase Bisontis here. I think they need a left guard. This is a guy that's been climbing up the board and been rumored as a first-round pick. We talked about him and Rutledge. Mm-hmm. I think Bisontis is just such a Houston Texans pick.
Where did you guys have him on your list of interior linemen?
I got
two more. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it was 2 or 3 for me. Him and Rutledge were very, very close.
Okay. STERB, what about you?
I want to say he was number 3 for me because I did have a higher grade on Pregnon. But in this type of offense and, this type of thing, I do think Bisontis is probably the favorite to go over Pregnon, although I could see both of them kind of sneaking in the first round. Pregnon is just a lot older. I think he's like 2.5 years older than Bisontis. So I would, if I was betting on a guard to go in the first round, I would bet Bisontis more than I would bet Pregnon.
With this pick for the Chiefs, I think, obviously Casey Concepcion is gone, but I don't know if they necessarily need a guy like that with Worthy on the team. Obviously, they're not the same. I think Casey's a much better player.
I was about to say.
But if you take a
tread lightly,
I will laugh.
No, I know. They need a corner here. Avion Terrell, yes. I think he's good. I think it's a little bit of I don't think he's like that good. I wouldn't have a first round.
Also, he has
on these other corners.
He ran a 4.6 at his pro day, and then said he had injuries afterwards.
I think
if you're going to say you have injuries, you got to say you have injuries before you run the 4.6. You can't just run a 4.6 and then be like, "Oh, it hurts."
Yeah,
that's scary.
If I'm them, I'm either taking a corner, a receiver, or trading back. If I'm Kansas City. That being said, I do think that Avion Terrell would probably be the pick here. If I'm just looking at the board the way it is, even though, like you said, there are some worries, STERB, about his athleticism or injuries. I think there's so many clips of him being in man and things like that where I think he's pretty sticky in coverage. I think I had him. What did I say? I had him as number 3. My board. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I think he was my number 3 corner.
One of us had him 3, one of us had him 4. I do think they would
I had him at 4. Well. I had Pons over him because I do think Pons is better fundamentally, but he's much smaller, so that bumps him down a lot of people's boards. But
Chiefs play a ton of man coverage too.
Colton
yeah, I think Terrell. I think Terrell's the pick. I'll go with Terrell.
I do like Terrell much better than Hood, but Hood might be more kind of their type.
I can see.
Yeah, I can see it there.
I could see them picking a kind of a guy like that or Chris Johnson, but Avion Terrell, I mean, sticky and man, and they play a ton of man. They're pretty much the entire AFC West plays amongst the highest percentage of man coverage. So yeah, I think this would be a great fit.
Moving on to the next pick here, we have number 30. STERB, you are on the clock. What do you got?
Yeah, I believe the Dolphins took Mekhi Lemon earlier in the draft, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of take your pick of defense. I think the only thing you could argue kind of against is like maybe a little middle linebacker with Jordan Brooks and then like a nose tackle on Kenneth Grant because you took that last year, even though he's been disappointing. It's kind of a blank slate here. I mean, you got to go corner at some point.
The defensive back is so bad.
Yeah, I don't want to be missing out on a corner run. I don't really like any of these corners at their specific value. Like at 30, I think actually, you know what, I like Chris Johnson here. Hammer was just saying that like Chris Johnson would, fit in perfectly for like the Packers. Well, he's kind of got a similar thing going on there in Miami, right? So with Hafley there, I think Chris Johnson's a really good fit. I know Dane Brugler likes this guy a lot. I want to say he's my cornerback 4. But yeah, I really like this guy, more of an off-zone corner. Coming from a lower level competition, but I think we'll be able to, translate. And like I said, it's kind of just taking whatever player you have highest graded here. But for me, that's Chris Johnson. I think you could, take any player that stands out to you, like the end of the first, top of the second, and then you can make an argument for literally anything on the Dolphins roster right now.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to take a corner here. It's just which one do you see them taking? And I think this is a fine pick. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. I think they need a corner desperately. Like I said, that room is horrendous. So with them going with Micaiah at 11, I think it makes a ton of sense to go with the corner here. Chris Johnson would probably be my, third or fourth corner on my board. So,
and I want to say that like all the people who are coming out and saying like, oh yeah, Broncos traded a first round pick for Jalen Waddle. You traded Chris Johnson in this case for Jalen Waddle.
Look at this.
I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good.
I mean, even all the guys that went before this, right? Like, would I have rather have Jalen Waddle or would I rather have Emmanuel McNeil-Warren? No disrespect to the man, but it was
KC, different story. KC, different story.
Yeah. I would love KC, but Jalen Waddle's a day one sure thing.
Yeah. Moving on to 31 here, Ty. What are your thoughts for the Patriots?
Yeah, no team needs an offensive tackle, maybe more than this team. They have a star young quarterback, and their offensive line sucked last year and got him killed. I think that, there was clips of Vrabel working with iNature a ton at his pro day.
I think that was Diana Rossini, actually.
No, she was behind the phone.
Sorry. I think Vrabel got hands-on with Diana Shore and Rossini.
That was a great chirp.
That was good stuff. Yeah, I think iNature is more of a bit more of a developmental guy to me, but I think Vrabel can can help the young man out. So I'm going to take iNature here. I mean, they got to address the offensive line. So
yeah, the Seahawks here at 32 are extreme. They're definitely. I feel like this is the spot, right? This is whoever wants Ty Simpson for whatever reason. Wants Ty Simpson, goes and gets him, right? And this is that spot. But since we're not doing trades, I got to pick someone here. I think they need an edge. Like, you can add some depth there, or they go corner.
They lost Boye Mafe.
Yeah. I just don't love like when we were breaking down the edges, like I don't love any of these guys right here at the top. So I think they would trade back.
I would do Zion Young.
Yeah, I think Zion Young would be the pick if they could trade back a few spots, right?
They're going to trade back anyways because they have 4 draft picks.
Yeah, and they want. So I'll pick Zion Young here, but I think in reality, they trade back a few picks for that team that wants to get Ty Simpson, and then they take Zion Young.
Yeah, they could take Zion Young anyways. So
yeah, so I'll put him here at the end of our board. That is it for our mock draft. It's very interesting. Oh, shit, the ads. PFF, come on.
I'll add this on Seattle. Don't sleep on running back, right?
I think running back would be a really good pick, too. Jadarian Price.
There.
I think he's all right, but
Zach
Charbonnet, I think, is fine. He's in comparison to Price. I think
he's fine enough to not take Price at 32.
Yes. That's what I mean. Yeah. I'd rather take Zion Young wherever they trade back to, and then Coleman later. than taking Price in the late first or second
Agreed.
round if they trade back, if that makes sense. But I think that either way they'd be all right with their pick. But that'll do it for our mock draft here. As you see on the board, you can see our picks. You can check it out. I'll post it on Twitter as well tomorrow. Anyways, that'll do it though. So do you guys have any closing thoughts for the mock draft? What are your guys' thoughts?
What percentage chance do you think, or what percentage of accuracy do you think we get here at the end of the day?
Let's see.
I'd say like 40%.
Yeah, I think that's about.
How many picks is that? Like
12? That is
out of
about
32?
12 picks. Yeah.
But the thing is,
we get 12 picks right. I feel okay with that.
And the thing is, like, we're not doing trades, and those are those are absolutely impossible to predict. So and I think the range is kind of what matters too more than anything. Maybe we're not matching them to the teams, but range too. Fair. But yeah, I think 40% is a fair prediction. I'd be happy with that. But anyways, sorry, go ahead, Ty.
I was just gonna say, I'd be very happy with 40.
Anyways, that will do it for our episode. Make sure to watch this, get to this point here. I say you're listening to this shout out, but listen in tonight for our live stream of day 1, and then tomorrow night for live stream of day 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be breaking down all the picks, giving our thoughts, giving our predictions before the picks, breaking down trades, all that kind of fun stuff. We're going to be having guests on as well. I know there's a few guys. I think the Packers in the 3rd round, we're having on a Packers podcast host that Hammer reached out to. So it'll be a lot of fun the couple of nights of live stream. So make sure to tune in, give your guys' thoughts, comments down below, and we will. I mean, we all like breaking down what you guys think. So make sure to comment. We'll pull them up on the live stream, break them down, hear your guys' thoughts. It'll be a lot of fun. We will see you guys tonight.